Well, you came back for more, huh? So now that you have a deeper understanding of the Torah, a fair question is, how is the Torah connected to the Bible? Well, first, why do I keep saying the Bible, right? Why am I putting quotes in it over and over and over again? Well, which Bible are we talking about? There's the King James Bible, a Bible that arose from the same time Pilgrims and Puritans left for America. Some people say this is the version and the only one, and other people say there's a lot of problems with this version. You have the New International Version, a local one, started in Palos Heights, I think in the 80s. You got the New American Bible. It's the most popular Catholic Bible in the U.S. And an interesting thing, we talked a little bit about this last time, but there's a different amount of books than the Protestant Bible. But now that, I've married into a Mexican family and I'm starting to understand more, it's become so obvious that, you can't just say there's the English Catholic version of the Bible, because you got other languages, and one being La Biblia Latinoamerica. And it's a pretty popular Catholic Bible in the U.S. If you use it in your church, I'd love to hear about it. If you use a different Bible in your church, I'd love to hear about it. The one that's probably the most preferred by academics is a really good one that shows you a lot of different translation controversies and will bring up when there's arguments over the words. But it has probably the worst name ever. It's so redundant, right? It's new, it's revised, it's updated. Cool, man. Pick one of those words. Seriously, it's the new revised. So it was the standard version, there was the revised standard version, and the new revised standard version, and then just a few years ago we get the updated edition. And to be fair, there's a lot of fascinating history that I just skipped over in that, but we don't got time for that. And then we come back to the Hebrew Bible. In some ways, you can make the argument it's the same thing as the Old Testament, but in other ways, it's very different. And I'm not just talking about the fact that the letters go the other way. Right, notice the binding is now on the right side of the book, where all these other ones, the binding is on the left side. So when we're talking about differences here, we have to remember the Bible actually isn't technically even a book. It's really a collection of books. And especially for the Torah, it's like a collection of scrolls. And so in this left shelf, we have the Old Testament. Again, that's pretty much the Hebrew Bible. The right shelf, you got the New Testament. We'll talk much more about that later. But in this Old Testament, you got law, you got history, you have poetry, you have what are known as the major prophets, you have what are known as the minor prophets. Shout out to Book of Jonah. And you could kind of, I apologize, this is not meant to be blasphemous, but you can kind of compare it to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Right, you have some movies like Iron Man or Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or 2, or the Spider-Man movies, Avengers Endgame, where you're like, these are the books that everyone loves. It's going to be in any Bible, any telling of the MCU story, we're going to have that. But then you have all these other stories like Loki and WandaVision, the Disney Plus stuff, the Netflix stuff, the ABC stuff. And some people are like, yeah, that's canon. That's in my MCU. And other people are like, I don't need to watch TV shows. This is a movie thing. Or I'm going to watch these TV shows, but not that. You have the same thing with the different books of the Bible, where you have different traditions, including some books changing the order of some books, and some just leaving them out. So feel free to pause and dive into the weeds of this. But when we do say that, the Hebrew Bible is the Old Testament, part of the truth in that is so many of the modern translations of Christian Bibles are based on the text of the Hebrew Bible. So yeah, Jews all have 24 books and Protestants have 39, Catholics 46, and Orthodox Christians up to 53. Talking Old Testament only in here. But sometimes they're breaking up one book into several different books, but they're using that same original Hebrew to get this new English translation. Right, and so you have 39 books in the Protestant version because the 12 minor prophets that's one book in the Hebrew Bible, and in Christian Bibles that's often 12 separate books. And so feel free again to pause and dive into the weeds, but the arrangement of the books can be different, the titles of the books can be different. Here you can see a comparison between 4 different categories of Bibles, and we can even break this out into a wider comparison of different subcategories of Bibles. And yeah, it gets deep. And And so what we can say for sure is the Torah is the foundation of both Jewish and Christian scripture. And so Exodus, that second book of Torah, has a whole chapter, 26, dedicated to God's instructions on how to build that tabernacle, that dwelling place for Yahweh I was talking about earlier, eventually recreated in the Holy Temple of Jerusalem. Inside was the Ark of the Covenant, where they stored the 2 tablets Moses brought down from Mount Sinai after talking to the burning bush. And so many synagogues have Torah arks where they keep the Torah scrolls. It's relatively common for families to keep their Torah scrolls in the Torah arks of their local temples, or to have maybe wealthier families donate a Torah scroll. And so here you can see the inside, the gate open. Here you can see the Torah ark in Manhattan's Central Synagogue. And so we're about to learn about this woman who, to many Jews, she's blasphemous. She's breaking Torah. But to many Jewish men and women, Julie's a hero, and I have no doubt that there's some families where both beliefs are present. And so feel free to go to her website if you want and check out. She's a Hebrew scribe. But the main thing I want you to do is I want you to watch the interview with Julie Seltzer. And again, like I said earlier, it's not only are you going to get this kind of radical internal diversity, but you're also going to get kind of the nuts and bolts of what Torah scribing is for most Jews. And so for this, I would love for you to write an answer to one of these questions. Pick any of these 3 questions, write your answer. And I look forward to reading them. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.